Hey up, I'm Guy Kesteven, the Tester Man, and today the bike I'm reviewing is the Guava Spot SRAM Force Axis, a bike that's born in Taiwan but painted and built to order in Barcelona. And Guava currently only have one bike in their range, just available in a lot of builds, and also 100 different colour combinations, of which I mean 10 frame colours and then 10 logo colours. And I have to say, this is a really smart looking bike. It's a really tidy design that blends a performance and practicality really nicely, and it certainly stands clear, nice one Graham, of your standard off the peg gravel bike build in terms of features. And Guava separate himself from the crowd in terms of their emphasis as well. So when you go on the Guava website, they've kind of got 3 USPs, and the bike is actually their third one. There's much more talking about community spirit, inclusivity, kind of fostering the spirit of gravel. I'm sure they put it much better on their website, but it's all about enjoying the ride, and the bike actually comes in third, like I say. Which is a bit of a shame, because the more I've ridden it, the more I think this Spot is spot on. So in terms of geo, it's your classic gravel bike stroke early 90s mountain bike. 71.5 degree head tube, 73 degree seat tube. I'm on a large 468mm top tube, so relatively long, but then 520mm seat tube, and it's a 27.2, so it'll take any dropper post you want, and also that means you've got a decent amount of seat post shaft and a nice slim round seat tube to add some comfort and flex into the frame. And then the main standout feature structurally is a big hexagonal down tube, complete with a really neat fidlock magnetic catch storage lid, which a bit of wriggling can actually fit a ton of stuff in there. I've actually got a 29er tube in there, TPU one, and a full-size Lazine multi-tool, which isn't the case with all mountain bikes, let alone most gravel bikes. And also I like the way that Guava have picked up that hexagonal tube shape in the font they use for the lettering. Reminds me of those Clark's Commando badges I used to get with shoes as a kid. And that larger tube, while it does definitely, that keeps the handling keen enough, it's not been fitted at the expense of the ride quality suffering. I'm on 45s here, which is the biggest tyre you can get in this bike, but skimming along nicely on what, as you can see, is ridiculously hard baked conditions for Yorkshire. And there's a bit of kick and bounce there, as you see, bumping me out of my carbon rail saddle. And also I've noticed that for really tight turns it pays to get on the drops, try and anchor the front wheel, because while the rest of the geo's fairly balanced, that head tube at 170mm is pretty upright, so it's more party pace than pace line, and that does mean you can lose the front wheel when it goes light. And also, you've got a little bit of rise in that all-in-one carbon cockpit. But then, on this posher model, it's still all tucked in, fully integrated and aero. So while there's no real tube profiling, wind tunnel work in the rest of the bike, that front end will save you a few watts, and also means it's a lot neater when you're adding a bag. And I like the shape of it as well. A little bit of randonneur style back sweep, subtle amount of flare, not too much that you forget how wide your bars are, or it makes you think you're on a mountain bike, but not enough extra leverage to nudge it in as far as I want to on these WTB Vulpine tyres. Got to get slide knobs over on these. Oh, there we go, see? It's the first big lump with it, really. And you do know you're hitting them, and you can hear the free hub chunking away on the back there, but it's certainly not hammering me to death like that Rondo did the last bike I rode. And it's repaid with a really nice lively feel under power as well. I mean, even with this mullet cassette on the rear, because it's a mixed MTB gravel situation on the group set, and 45mm tyres, it's still under 9 kilos, 8.8 to be exact, without pedals on. Get money's worth out of the trail. So, with a sort of, and that's with Guava's own Volti rounded carbon rims. They're not deep section, they're about 30mm deep, so they're D section rather than fully aero. But again, it's just a nice balance of lightweight and decent ride quality. So, it's a really good bike in the way I'm describing it so far, but it's nothing absolutely outstanding. However, there's two things we haven't talked about yet, not properly anyway. So, let's have a close-up look at them, and why that, I think, lifts Guava right up there into the definitely consider list, especially if you like supporting a small brand that's making a lot of effort to put its heart in the right place. The first thing to talk about is the features. Already talked about 45mm tyre clearance and that really neat, easy to open fidlock storage hatch. And to be fair, it could tidy up the internal hose routing. The hose is just kind of roaming free inside the carbon at the moment, so that could get noisy if you don't tape it down. Or to be honest, if you're going to use the little sleeve you get for your storage, then I was going to keep it tucked in anyway. And you know, compared to something like the hatch on my Stigmata, it's definitely bordering on the flimsy, but that means it's light, and that fidlock catch really is the neatest thing I've used on any storage system. Then it's got a UDH gear hanger. Again, it's not using it on this bike. It's an older school Exomech, but you could go with a T-type rear, or with red Axis Explorer, already out using full mount, direct mount, whatever they call it, and Oh, the group set's coming out very shortly, using the same standard. That's a really good bit of future-proofing. Plus, it means you've got a genuinely universal derailleur hanger, so you can find spares really, really easily. You're not going to need to look for a specific branded rear hanger if your rear mech gets ripped off. And then as we roll back onto the road, it's a good time to talk about the practical road features. You've got fender mounts, you've got rack mounts, you've got room for fenders. Easily get a 40mm tyre in here with a fender, and maybe you'd probably get a 47mm Michelin 40. I shouldn't say that, because obviously, you know, there are safety standards imposed by those lovely Europeans that stop you from getting scuppered when gravel gets stuck in your frame. But, you know, there's more tyre room, let's just say, than the listed 45. And you've got a bunch of cargo mounts as well. You've got top tube mount, you've got 2 standard bottle cages in the frame, and another under the belly. So, if you go over to Barcelona, or their shop in Girona, or even their new farmhouse that they're setting up for bike tours, led by my old mate Dave Smith, Dave Grit, the English king of Girona gravel and top coach too. You're not going to go thirsty. Well then, you know, this isn't designed as a full-on adventure bike, and when you get on the road like now, it doesn't feel like one either. Certainly doesn't feel a chore tapping out tempo. I'd be perfectly happy having this with 2 sets of wheels, a gravel set and then a road set, and using it for every time I want to get out on the drop bar. And then the other thing to talk about is just the value for money of these Guavas. So, small company, but like I said, they're made to order in Barcelona, and they're painted to order as well. So that's got to add a bit of cost. I mean, it adds a 3-week wait from ordering. But the great thing about ordering is the price you order at is the price you'll pay. The UPS man isn't going to try and sting you for more duty. There's no packaging or handling to add on. It's a final price, which on some brands like Canyon is, you know, getting on for £100 extra, even buying direct. So there's none of that to contend with. And while, yeah, it's about £500, comparing the various specs, it's about £500 more than a Canyon or a Cube. You have got those colour options, and that built to order specification. And the specification is really, really sorted. They've got that really nice carbon bar. You've got carbon wheels, you've got decent tyres, you've got the fixtures on the frame, but you've got tram force, chain set, you've got exo-axis rear mech. So for £5 you're getting a lot of bike, and you're getting a lot of individuality as well, which I think in gravel really matters to a lot of people. Certainly matters to me. And while the ride feel isn't as cultured as something like a Cervelo, and it hasn't got sort of built-in suspension features of a Specialized or a Trek, you're looking at £1,500 or more for an equivalent spec on those bikes, and it's certainly a lot more nuanced and just enjoyable in terms of smoothness and just overall zip than something blunt like Planet X's free range of carbon. So again, I think it's just a really good balance of performance and price, especially when it's such a practical bike in terms of the fixtures too. It's certainly no slouch. When the trail goes upwards, while still sticking the tyres down for decent grip. Of course, the really big advantage with that mullet mountain bike cassette on the rear is when the trail turns steeply upwards, and then you've got that 52 tooth dinner plate on the back for winching your way up even the steepest stuff. And again, short 430mm chain stays. Make a decent job of that, to be fair. So while Joff fixes a puncture in the challenge tyres down by the Beryl Burton Memorial, doesn't get much more cycling than that, does it? Basically, this Guava, I'll be honest, I was a little bit cynical about it to start with. I thought it'd be just a sort of generic catalogue-aided design out of Taiwan with a nice sort of wine bottle story of good times in gravel in Girona. But, you know, not only having a really good time with the whole gravel party vibe, but also this Spot is great value for a really good spec. I forgot to say, you get a carbon railed saddle on there as well. Plus, loads of practical features from your storage to your UDH to a just good all-round spec in several different versions. Plus, it's really, really well priced. It's actually competitive with very bland mass market options, but it's got some proper customizable individuality about it. So, if you're looking for a really sorted all-rounder that comes with a nice backstory and the chance to make it really, really individual, a proper bike tailored to you and you don't mind waiting a few weeks, then I would definitely get the Guava Spot on your list. In fact, better than that, I'd get yourself over to Spain, book in at the farmhouse they're setting up, and let Dave take you for a tour of Girona while you decide exactly how we're going to spec your Guava yourself. So, that's me and the Guava. So, that's enough sweet words about the Guava. Make sure you click subscribe, notifications, give it a thumbs up, like, tell your mates about it if you think they'll appreciate an old bloke talking about bikes on the interwebs. If you really like what I'm doing here on the channel, then consider throwing a few quid at me monthly via the Patreon app. And thanks for coming along for a particularly sweet ride on this Guava. Look at that. Gravel dust in Yorkshire. Unbelievable.